2 True Camping Horror Stories. The summer of 2022, I was desperate, frustrated. I had quit my job a few months prior in the pursuit of my own startup, and my business wasn't exactly thriving. After 6 years of IVF treatment, my wife had blessed me with a daughter early that year, and while I was elated to be a father, the stress of being a dad, the financial pressure from the clinic, and the weight of being the sole provider for my family had taken a significant toll in the recent months. As summer approached, I decided I needed a weekend away to clear my head and get back into the grind. I decided to take 2 nights trip, just me and our dogs, to take off on Old Logan Road about 3 hours from home. It was one of my favorite spots, and I knew the woods were quite well. I packed my things, leashed the dogs, 2 blue heelers, and set out early one Tuesday morning. When I got to the trailhead, the parking lot was empty. Middle of the week. I was stoked to be alone. There was a single deer path up on a canyon about 1,200 feet over 5 miles to get to the lake, and neither myself nor the dog met anyone else on the trail the entire way up the mountain. I got to the lake around midday, spent the afternoon fishing and collecting wood and water for the coming night. The lake was pristine and quiet, not a soul in sight. I was truly alone, aside from the dogs. I found a flat spot on the east side of the lake, with the vegetation clear, and I could set up a tent. And I made a small camp about 30 yards from the trail. I would have preferred to go further up the mountain, but it was still early in the season. When I got to the campsite, the rest of the trail was too snow-packed to continue any further. As it was, I had to navigate over several hand-packed embankments before I got to the suitable area. The icy slush was difficult to navigate, even for the dogs, and when we had finally crushed our way over, through a few hundred yards, I made the decision, we will be going no further. I set up my tent, hung my pack on a limb, and took my fishing pole back to the direction I had come. I spent the evening catching and cooking fish at the edge of the spillway, and as the sun began to set, the dogs and I made our way back to the tent. Slipping over wet stump and clumsily pushing through the snow, I stumbled into the camp, exhausted and ready for a fire. As I approached the site, though, I realized some things were out of place. My pack, which had been hung on a limb, was sitting neatly on the other side of the clearing, about 20 feet from where I had left it. Sitting on top of it was a large eagle feather. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. The dog began a low growl, but as they circled the site, there was no one there. As I approached my tent, a stake had been used to carve an inscription into the dirt outside the entrance. It was 2 U's, one upside down connected to the other by a thin line, and then further connected by another line to a larger U shape. I will describe it as Native American petroglyph in the shape of a bird or an eagle. Uniform, symmetrical, and above all things fresh. Someone had been here. Someone neither I nor 2 very distrusting dogs had seen, heard, or smelled. Someone who had left no footprint through the snow and mud. Someone who had not passed us on the trail, or whose car had been parked at the trailhead. My stomach dropped. I felt prices of being watched, but I couldn't tell from where. I quickly built a huge campfire, and with a dread watched as the last of the sunlight sank beyond the ridge. That night was a fever dream. Pulling the dogs into the tent with me, I clutched to my knife and flashlight, praying that whatever was watching me would leave. It didn't. Throughout the night, I was periodically awakened. I was awakened to a variety of sounds. Yells, shrieks, the slapping of branches. The dogs will sit up, growl, and bark until I will open the screen of the tent and shine my light into the forest. At one point I had just drifted off to sleep when the dog's low growl woke me up, thinking I might have the drop on whatever this was. I slowly unzipped the tent, leaned out with my flashlight. Taking a breath, I clicked it on. Standing just 3 feet from me was a doe and her calf. I scanned across her. An entire herd was in the sight. As my dogs lost it, the deer spooked and sprinted back into the forest. A crushing and trembling noise as several dozen deer evacuated the area. As it faded, I heard laughter. The deep laughter of a man turned to crying as it escalated, then sobbing, and then the deep growling, much more boisterous than anything my dog will make, or even a bear produce. I held the dogs tightly. Sleep eluded me for the rest of the night, and as soon as the sun peeked into the valley, I packed my things and I left. I have never been so terrified in my life. I promise this is a true story. No one seems to believe me, but I can't explain it otherwise. I was out camping in the mountains when I was about 11 years old. It was this small open area deep in the forest surrounded by trees. It was a family trip that included my sister, parents, grandparents, cousins, and a few friends and their parents. So it was 2 tents and 1 RV. My family slept in one tent that had a side connected to the tent my dog slept in, with a toilet tent nearby. My friends and their parents had a tent behind ours. My grandparents and cousins slept in the RV. There were 12 of us in total. Other than us, there was only one other RV that also had a dogs, and another tent with a couple few rows down. It was a fairly big campsite, so there was a lot of distance between us, and my family was closest to the woods. Not so close that we could see into it, but close enough we could see about 5 feet past the tree line. It was a 2-week trip, and we have 5 days left before going home. It was about 3 a.m. and I was still awake. I had forgotten my insomnia medicine at home and I slept till 2 that afternoon. Had to use the bathroom but was too scared to go out alone, so I woke my dad up. He didn't want to leave the tent but promised to watch from the window until I came back inside. So I grabbed the lamp and went outside to the toilet tent. Once inside, I closed myself in and turned off my lamp. A habit I have so that bugs aren't attracted to the lamp inside the tent, so no one can see me in there. It wasn't even a minute later the dogs, who were in the tent next to the bathroom, started barking and grunting like nuts. Now these two never barked or growled except when someone came too close to the tent. Oh, that one time geese were passing between the tent and had scared them. It was late, and I could hear no one outside. My dad started yelling for them to shut up, but they just got louder, and I'm a golden retriever who couldn't hurt a fly, started to bark this scary bark. Our other dog was growling like he was about to attack something. It was scary to hear. I was scared, but wanted to know if there was something outside I needed to yell for my dad about. So I opened up the entrance just slightly to see what was out there. I looked straight out into the woods trying to see if it was another animal but couldn't see anything. Then to the left of where I was looking, something moved behind the trees. Once my eyes focused on it, I could see this large figure, much bigger than what a human would be at this distance, walking across the tree line, not coming into the camp but walking past it. Its arms looked like they were dragging on the ground, and it looked like it had the long snout coming from its face. Its eyes were reflecting the light from the RV across the way, making its eyes glow a scary red color. It also looked to gave these huge antlers on its head and moved in almost a smooth way. Smooth as where it looked unnatural and like it was kind of floating there. Finally my dad started shouting for the dogs to shut up. And opened the side of the tent that connected to the dog's tent, causing the dogs to run into the main tent. The creature seemed to not react to the commotion, but did turn to walk back into the woods away from the area. As it moved away, the dog started calming down and stopped barking and growling like nothing happened. It took me 5 minutes after seeing the dog leaving to feel my heart beating, and Dad called to ask if I was okay, and I said yes. I went back inside, but I couldn't sleep at all that night. In the morning during breakfast, I told everyone what I had seen, but no one believed me. My papa said I probably was seeing things from how tired I was, or was seeing a deer in the dark and just missed how it looked. After breakfast, me and the kids my age, aka all the kids but one cousin, went to the tree line where I saw the creature a few hours before. The area I saw it walking had hoof prints in the dirt, and some sign of something dragging. And further into the trees, there was this one tree that had this huge deep lashes in it that was obviously fresh and unnatural. My papa said it was probably a deer rubbing its antlers in the tree, but it obviously wasn't. I refused to use the bathroom at night after that and struggled to sleep even more. 2 days later, me and my friends called my papa to go with us further into the tree line. I wanted to see if there was any other sign something had been there. As we walked into the tree, we showed my papa the marks, but the tracks had faded. Papa said it looked like a coyote had dug its claw into the tree. As we walked deeper and it got darker, my papa told us to wait and stay where we were. My papa told us to wait and stay where we were and continue forward on his own. After 5 minutes he came back and said we were going back to camp. After returning, he told us he had found 2 more trees marked the same way as the ones we showed him, and a dead fox. He said the strangest thing was the fox wasn't eaten or anything, but he had been marked like the trees. A large portion of its side had been ripped off and tossed further away from it. He looked disturbed, but said it was probably a coyote who got into a fight and ended up leaving it. That was when I knew what I saw was real. After that, I refused to sleep in the tent and slept on the couch in my grandparents' RV for the rest of the trip. We no longer camped in that site after a couple was found dead 3 weeks later. If you come for the first time, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for our upcoming scary stories. We need your support. Please share these stories with your friends and family. Thanks.